Rally for Recovery. So, before we get started officially, if people could take some seats, kind of settle in, because all the noise carries into this beautiful Capitol Rotunda, and it's hard to hear. So the more we can settle in, the more we'll be able to hear the messages today. So it's really exciting to see so many people here today. Where's Evan Dome? Okay, again, welcome everyone to the Rally for Recovery. This is our 15th year. My name is Mary Jo McMillan. I'm a woman in long-term recovery for 37 years. I also am the executive director of the Utah Support Advocates for Recovery Awareness, USARA, and we are all belonging here today. I am so grateful for the opportunity to get to be in the state capitol with a community of people who have been taking care of their health and wellness and recovery from substance use and mental health disorders, and alive and well to continue our road to recovery and help others along the way. When we started this 15 years ago, we weren't sure how we would be received because of the stigma oftentimes associated with people who are struggling with substance use and mental health disorders. And we have been well received by the people who work here, the legislators during the legislator session, the representatives and senators have really welcomed us and have been championing a lot of legislation and policy for our community and for prevention, intervention, treatment, and recovery support services. That didn't used to happen. We didn't have the voices that are here today. All of you have an important voice. We are citizens of Utah who are well and working on our recovery, but we have jobs. We're supporting each other. We have families. We have a purpose. And our purpose is to continue to tell people our stories, that we get better if we have the right kind of support. We have housing. We have access to health care. We don't get locked up. We don't get punished for using. That we get help when we're struggling. And that's exactly why we're here today, to continue to carry that message that when one of us struggles, we help each other get better, no matter what. So the next person who's going to welcome us is Rob from NAMI, Utah, and again, I'm very grateful that all of us have come today to celebrate the rally. Thank you.
Okay, so I want to highlight a couple of things that Mary Jo said. So first of all, I'm Rob Westman. I'm with NAMI Utah. I'm also part of the Salt Lake Valley Coalition to End Homelessness, because if we don't address that, it makes it a lot harder to do stuff. So that's been really cool to be able to do all of that, so thank you. So what Mary Jo said all you all being here right now is letting people know and letting people hear your voice. And when you do this work up here on the Capitol, that's all it's about, is do you have a voice? Because if you don't, someone else does, and they're going to do whatever the heck they want. And so thank you. So I'm going to share just really quick, because you're my peeps, and I want to share. So my dad passed away when I was 26 years old from what we knew to be a substance use disorder. Back then, who knows, because I'm not 26 anymore. And it's been with me, like, I kind of never don't think about that. And what's so encouraging is when I get around you guys, because someone even came to the table earlier and they mentioned that they love this because they feel comfortable and these are our people. And so I just thank you, because all of you have helped in my journey, and hopefully we can do a little bit to make things a bit easier. Like Mary Jo said, we're in a spot where not everyone is saying, let's just arrest people, let's just throw them in jail and let them figure it out. It's so different than it was. We've got a long way to go, but you guys being here is helping so much. So thank you, enjoy the rest of the speakers, and thank you so much for being here.
All right, hello everybody. My name's Evan Doan, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. I was just telling my friend Brent, who's going to speak here in a minute, that before we got started today, I was having some of those fears that you do when you host an event like this. Like, what if you throw the party and nobody came? But you showed up, and that is amazing. So thank you so much for showing up for yourselves and for our recovery community here in Utah. It's amazing to see you here. So I've been up here at the legislature nearly every day this legislative session, fighting for people like us. And I have to tell you that sometimes when I am giving public comment before a committee or I'm talking to a legislator, I get really scared. I'm really afraid. But what gets me through those moments are my recovery, right? Because I know from my recovery that I can feel the fear and I can do it anyway. And I also know that it's never about me. It's about what I'm seeing right here before me right now. It's about all of us, right? And so I'm up here fighting for us. So we're going to hear from quite a few people today. We've got some elected officials, we've got some appointed officials, different people from the state of Utah. It's going to be a great lineup. We'll try to keep it under an hour because I know that it can feel a little bit tight in here and people get a little antsy. But if you could do me one favor and try to keep the side talk to a minimum, it gets really distracting and once the crowd gets lost, it's hard to get us back, right? So please show our speakers as much respect as you can today. I really appreciate it. And thank you again so much for being here. So I'm going to introduce Brent Kelsey from the Office of Substance Use and Mental Health.
What he meant to say is I'm the person that you should hold accountable. When things are going wrong, when the treatment system isn't delivering, when prevention's not working, speak out and use your voice and use your experience to help us craft a better system. The first thing I want to say other than that is thank you for coming. It makes a real difference to hear from people with lived experience with substance use disorder and mental health disorder. People think that change begins here in this building. And let me tell you, it doesn't. It begins with you. you some examples. So when now Senator Plum was just Dr. Plum, she was extremely frustrated by how slow we were to bring naloxone to our community. And so instead of just griping about it, she formed Utah Naloxone, and now we have, they've distributed hundreds of thousands of naloxone doses. They've sold lots every day. And she made change happen. It was enacted here, but it began with her. Another change that I wanted to talk about is USARA. I never know where I'm going with this speech. I write something down and then I just ramble, and here I go again. But I see Casey Hill over here, who was the first executive director. And when we started this organization, we thought, are we ever going to get to the point where we can hire an actual employee to do this work? And it was close. We were like, I'm not sure this is going to work. Will the employees who work for USARA stand up? It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible that this organization, which we didn't know if it was going to fly or not, now has receiving centers, or recovery centers in 5 communities. You're doing peer support services in many, many counties, and you hold the largest rally in the state capitol every year. So, to me, and I say this every year, and it sounds bureaucratic, but the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration has defined recovery. And what I always focus on are the 4 elements of recovery: health, home, community, and purpose. And bring us ideas that improve health. The greatest thing that I've seen happen this year, we funded health, exercise, and addiction recovery programs. Do we have anybody here from Addict to Athlete or Fit to Recover or any of our other organizations? People ask me, how are we going to solve the homelessness problem? How are we going to solve the addiction problem or the mental health problem? It's about building community, and it's about improving people's health, happiness, and bringing purpose to people's lives. And organizations like Fit to Recover, Addict to Athlete, and so many others are doing that every single day. The clubhouses. Do we have any people that belong to the clubhouses here in the state of Utah? Another one. It's people working together, providing community to each other that's going to solve this problem. And what I'll say to all of you is, if you have ideas that will help people with their health, build community, find purpose, or with housing, and I know we have former Senator Denise Hauser who's probably going to talk about some of those issues, bring it, because those are the kinds of things that are going to help us build healthier and stronger communities in the state of Utah. So thanks for a few minutes.
Thanks so much to Brent Kelsey. Truly, there would not be a USARA without the support of that gentleman. And so just a little bit about us as an organization. So USARA, you can say it either way. We're the Utah Support Advocates for Recovery Awareness. And our mission is to connect and inspire communities to advocate for addiction recovery, like we're doing today. And we really envision a Utah where recovery, community, and connection are seen as the most valuable assets for people to recover from addiction. Because we know that's true, right? We have 5 recovery community centers, as Brent mentioned, across the state of Utah. We've got one here in Salt Lake, one in Ogden, one in Price, Moab, and St. George, with hopefully more to come soon. So since we kind of plugged him already, I want to introduce Wayne Niederhauser from the State Homeless Office, and he can talk a little bit about the work that's being done to end homelessness in our state.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. It's intimidating to see all you folks, but I just want to congratulate each one of you who have worked hard in your life to recover from addiction. You know, that's a big part of what homelessness is about. What's happened to you, and some of those things, those traumas that people experience in their life, and end up in a homeless situation. And now I'm working on helping get people housed and get into services, into treatment, and hopefully we can make a big dent in the homeless situation here in Utah. But I'm a former legislator. I think someone mentioned that you feel a little bit nervous going to talk to a legislator. Well, let me tell you, we're just people. And so never hesitate. Now, you might have some fear, but never hesitate to contact your legislator, because they are important to, it's important for them to know what's going on, so they are informed when they're making policy here in the state of Utah. So let me just explain some of the things we're doing specifically to housing. Last year, we were very successful in getting $55 million of one-time funds out of the legislature. The Office of Homeless Services went to work very quickly, and we awarded grants to housing projects all over the state, from St. George to Ogden. Most of them were here in Salt Lake area. And that has produced over 600, it will produce over 650 additional deeply affordable housing units. Being in housing is essential for people in any situation, but especially if you're working on a recovery situation. And we recognize that you need a place to be safe, to heal, and a place where you can get proper rest, and all those things are essential to any kind of recovery in your life. So this is important to us. We're working on a couple of items this year for housing, an additional $100 million to replace the $55 million that we granted out this year. So when you're talking to your legislators, deeply affordable housing grants, that's what you need to advocate for, so we can provide more deeply affordable housing. That's people with 30% area median income and below. And it doesn't naturally happen because it doesn't make a profit. It needs these kind of programs, the $100 million, the $50 million, to make it work. We're also working on a rent support program where that will actually help also create more additional housing by supplementing rents to keep people in housing and to create more housing. And then as you're talking to your legislator, remember to advocate for the Utah Low-Income Housing Tax Credit. So there is the federal low-income housing tax credit, but there's a proposal before the legislature that would create a Utah low-income housing tax credit. Well, they already have it, but it would add a lot more money to it. These are tax credits so that developers can be incentivized to create this affordable housing, workforce housing and deeply affordable housing. Housing, services, they go together. One doesn't work without the other, so it's important that we get these housing funds. I appreciate being here to talk about this today, and congratulations, everyone. I appreciate it.
Awesome, thank you. Housing is so important because it's impossible to get well and do better unless you have a safe and stable place to live. I want to recognize a few individuals that I know have been involved in the housing fight up here. Sean McMillan from First Step House. And I also want to bring Rob Westman back up to talk a little bit about what his organization, NAMI Utah, is doing in our state.
So I was joking that a couple of us were really excited about that tax credit thing. Be excited about it. If you remember, if you're talking to your legislator, just say tax credits, because it is huge. It's what allows Sean to do some of his stuff. We were just geeking out. So what I really appreciate about NAMI is that I get to work with folks like you. Those of us who, live with mental health conditions and, struggle from time to time or whatever, we can always find an ear of someone who has kind of been through it. And, I think the biggest thing that NAMI can do is help folks feel like you're not alone. Like, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm like, I am the only one going through this stuff. And it is nice to know that I'm not, first of all. And just, the other thing is like families. Like if I have a child who's struggling and I'm like, man, my friends don't want to talk about this, other families in the community don't want to talk about this, but we have folks who do. So we just want to make sure that folks get the support they need. We also want to make sure that we advocate for things that make sense in our communities. So I just feel incredibly fortunate to be able to do the work, and my team at NAMI, a bunch of us are here. Our table's over there. Go say hi to folks. So thanks everyone, and Evan's back.
Thank you so much, Rob. So next I want to introduce someone who is near and dear to my heart. She's a woman in long-term recovery, and you may have seen her here a couple years ago speaking in a different capacity, but now she's the director of Clean Slate Utah, Destiny Garcia.
Now this is how we show up for recovery. I'm Destiny Garcia. I'm the executive director of Clean Slate Utah. I'm also a woman in long-term recovery. I'm an Odyssey House graduate. Where's the Odyssey House people at? I'm also a Drugport graduate. And today I get to run this amazing organization. So if you don't know what Clean Slate Utah is about, I'm going to tell you. We help people clear their criminal records and access opportunities. We have a table over there if you guys have a criminal record, and if you're like me, I'm sure most of you do. Some of it can be expungables, and you may have to get a part of it. You can also do that as well. But the way we show up today is the way we show up when it's time to vote. It's the way we show up when it's time to talk to our legislature. It's the way we show up to advocate for expungement bills, to make things more accessible for people in recovery just like us. This is how we need to show up on the Hill to talk to all these people when we need some help changing our lives. We have a voice. We do recover. We have families. We have people. We do matter. And the more you show up and show that, the more the laws will be changed in our favor. Thank you.
Awesome. So because of the work that Destiny Garcia and others have done around expungement in our state, I am no longer a person with a criminal record. It's amazing. At USARA, we say that recovery is not rare and recovery is not random, right? Recovery happens all the time and all around us as long as people get the support they need to recover. So next up, I want to introduce a person who does amazing work at a very valuable support organization here in Salt Lake and across the state of Utah, Jules Martinez.
Hey everybody, happy Recovery Day. Is this better? My name is Jules Martinez. Thank you so much, Evan. I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means for me is that it's been over 10 years since I used alcohol or drugs to avoid the things that I was feeling, avoid the hard things that were happening in my life. And I'm also the clinical director of a nonprofit that I helped to start when I was in college called Latino Behavioral Health Services. I speak out about my recovery and I speak out about that success because my life didn't always look that way. I'm sure a lot of people here can relate to that. When I was young, I learned how to cope with things with drugs and alcohol by avoiding things, right? And I just rode these waves of chaos. I rode them well into my adult life. And today, I don't have to ride those waves that knocked me down when I was in isolation 10 years ago. Today, I feel like I can handle that stuff because I'm connected to the recovery community. It's because of the support and the connections that I made in this community. My mentors, Jacqueline Gomez Arias and Teresa Molina, who helped me get started on my way. The connections that we made together with Yusara and Nami. Yusara and Nami are like our tios and tias. They taught us how to support other people with their peer support service models. And thank you so much to you both for sharing all of that goodness with us and letting us adapt it and translate it and get it in Spanish and get it to the Spanish-speaking community in Utah, because we're growing, we're huge. I say we, I'm super white obviously, but I feel like I'm part of that community because I work with that community, I live with that community, right? And I'm connected to that community, and that's what this is all about. I feel super grateful for the connections that Latino Behavioral has made also to our administrators and our legislators here. The way that they've supported peer support services growing in the state, that they've supported those services for our marginalized communities, and I'm super excited to see how they push that movement forward because we have more work to do. We know that health disparities exist, that our Black, Indigenous, people of color communities have more barriers. There's more poverty when we talk about immigration, access to health insurance, housing. All of those barriers that we face in our recovery are steeper for our more marginalized communities. It's harder to get access to care, especially if you don't speak English. And we need to do a better job connecting to those communities and making those services available to those communities because we all deserve recovery. Our Latinx community deserves recovery. Our Black, our Indigenous, our Pacific Islanders, our Asian American communities, our LGBTQ communities, our youth, we all deserve recovery. And I'm really excited to see how our administrators, our legislators help us all stay connected so that we don't have to get knocked down by those waves. We can be like those little ants in those South American jungles that just instinctively link legs and form rafts, and we just ride those floods out together. That's what I want to see.
Thank you so much, Jules. Jules, you are the social worker that I one day hope to be, so thank you for all you do. Next up, I want to introduce the director of the Utah Substance Use and Mental Health Advisory Council, which is a very important group up here at the legislature. They were created in 1996. To inform the legislature and the governor's office on how pending legislation might impact mental health and substance use in our state. And Liz Kelch is just one of my heroes. So, Liz.
Thank you. I love Rally for Recovery Day because this is just an awesome day for me. So I'm Liz Kelch. I have the weirdest last name you'll ever see. It's spelled KLC. Yes, I get that there are no vowels, it's 3 letters, and it doesn't make sense. But that is my name. And the reason I'm telling you that is because you are a wonderful group that if you ever see my name, please stop me and talk to me because what you are and what you've done matters. And we are an advisory council that talks about all of the policy things that happens. So you know that legislators hear bills and everything. How many bills do you think are related to behavioral health, to mental health and substance use? Right now, there are hundreds of bills out there, but we are reviewing 200 bills that relate to mental health and substance use right now. That is awesome. You all know this is not always an easy topic, and President Niederhauser knows. But this has changed over the years, right? We're talking about it more. We're making this a conversation, and it's so important to hear from you. President Niederhauser talked about it already. I'm going to tell you again. You get onto le.utah.gov. You go down to that bottom box, and it says find your legislator. You put in your address. It's going to tell you exactly who to talk to. And when you email that person or text them, which is the best way to get a hold of them, you say, I'm your constituent from District so-and-so, and I'm going to tell you what I think about this bill, or about deeply low-income housing, or about this or that, and they're going to listen to you, I promise. These legislators, they mean to do good, and they want to represent you. Please use your voice to do that. There's so many important things. Brett didn't give himself enough kudos, so I'm going to tell you right now, he works tirelessly on these things for you. He does a great job. We're talking about social detox on these things. We're talking about the opioid litigation fund. We're talking about some of the things that can make a huge impact for you, your family, your friends, and the people that you care about. And we want to do that, but we need to hear from you. So remember, if you see Liz Kelch, you stop and you talk to me, and please let me know how I can help you, because this is an important thing, and I appreciate everything you do. I appreciate you being up here, and appreciate all that you do. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Liz. Liz really does work tirelessly up here on behalf of folks like us to make sure that our voices are heard and that evidence is used in the decision-making process. I just saw a couple of really important legislators show up, and so I want to introduce one of them. She's truly a rock star, and I really don't know how to introduce her anymore because she's a doctor, she's an executive director, and now she's a state senator. Jen Plum.
Seriously, I have missed humaning with you all. And this is, I gotta take it all in. I hope you're gonna share some pictures with me. It makes me do that mom thing, right? Where you get a little teary.
We love you, Jen.
Thank you. The love is very, very mutual. I'll tell you what, this has been a humbling ride for me in this building. Since 2014, when we first started advocating for access to naloxone and access to save those people that we love. And to those of you that are here because of naloxone, thank you for being here. That is what it's all about, right? We stick with one another until we don't need it, and we can then stick with the next, right? And so to come here and be full circle, 10 years, to be from watching good legislation save lives to be able to step into a position where I can maybe be a part of creating more legislation to save lives, and also to truly feel like I may have a desk and an office, but it's all of our offices. I want us to do this together, and I want to hear from you all. This year, I'm working on a couple of pieces of legislation. No shock to you all that there's one involving naloxone, to try to get physicians to be prescribing it when they are prescribing opioids, not only because it'll save a life, but that conversation about how dangerous opioid medications can be is not happening enough in Utah. So we're working on some spaces about decriminalizing fentanyl test strips has actually been passed. And I'm also working on, I couldn't get it completely decriminalized, but hopefully with fingers crossed, syringes. If you are participating in a syringe exchange program and storing syringes safely, you should not be subject to criminal charges as you are trying to be as well as you can be. There's some wonderful folks in the criminal justice space I want it to be about how do we help people get better, not how do we collect more money for folks to collect more. And then finally, we are finally coming together with some pieces about the opioid settlement spending. These dollars are so crucial, but they are also, they're sacred. We lost folks, right? We lost folks, and that's why those dollars are coming here. They need to be spent to keep people on the right path, to get people on the right path, and prevent folks from getting down the wrong path if that's where they're headed. With huge thanks to my crew over here from Utah Naloxone who are out there getting the kits into people's hands. Tell you when you love something and you can trust it with folks while you come up and do this other work, it's something else. You know you got good people. So to all of you, keep the fight up, keep supporting one another, keep yelling at the folks who need to hear it, including me if it's me. If I need to be yelled at, tell me. And most importantly, celebrate that you are here, celebrate that you are on your path, and celebrate that wherever that may be, every day better, not worse, is what we strive for. So thank you so much.
So I want to hit on an important point that Jen just made about those opioid settlement funds. I think we've all heard in the news that the drug companies got sued by our state's attorneys general and there's money coming down. So I want to invite Sierra Gregovich from the Utah Attorney General's office up to just say a few words about what's happening in that space.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. As Evan mentioned, my name is Sierra Gregovich, and I am the director for the Utah Opioid Task Force. And I just wanted to give you a personal story before I talk logistically about the opioid dollars. Similar to that emotional rush that Jen was explaining and Evan was explaining, I feel equally that way when I come to these events because I've lost multiple people to overdose in my family. Granted, I have a big family, but for the longest time, I did not know that recovery existed because everyone in my family had passed away. And I remember my second day on the job, my boss told me, I want you to give a call to Mary Jo. I see this card from you, Sarah, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, sure, who's this? And we scheduled a whole thing, and I go over to the office, and every employee took the time out of their day to sit down and round table with me and share with me their experiences and their paths to recovery. And again, I didn't know it existed. And I remember that day I left and I went in my car and I cried and I cried and I cried. You provided me hope. And as I've had a loved one deal with their substance use disorder, you have all provided me the comfort that this is possible. So as someone who has family members who experience substance use disorder and mental health, I applaud you all for being here. And I just really, really love this group of individuals because you are special. You are so special. So now we'll get to the logistics of the opioid settlement dollars. And I'll be brief, but I just wanted to let you know, as Dr. Plum, Senator Plum had mentioned, there is some legislation out, Senate Bill 155, that's advocating for a structure of this funding. Because this money does not belong to lobbyists. This money belongs to the people who have been harmed by the foul actors that have fueled the opioid crisis. This money belongs to families. This money is not only for the people who have been harmed, but for the people who are at risk of being harmed. For the intergenerational risks that happen when substance use disorder exists in a family. And so we are working tirelessly to ensure that this money is going towards the right ventures. But most importantly, your voices are what's going to make the change. You know, we can be individuals here and advocating for this, but your personal stories, your passion, and your ability to communicate and humanize the crisis at hand will help make this legislation come through. So I would encourage you, come stop by the Attorney General's office. I'm in that office every single day. Come speak to Dr. Plum or Representative Ray Ward, and let's get this in statute so we can ensure that this funding is going towards the right places. Thank you.
All right, before I introduce the next speaker, I want to just highlight a couple people that are here with us today who deserve a round of applause. First is one of the advocates up here who I think does the most for people like us. He truly represents the needs of people in recovery, and he always thinks about what's best for us as people first. So if we could please give a round of applause to Santiago Cortez. And then I also want to acknowledge that we do have another legislator here with us, another freshman senator, and he's actually my state senator. And when he got elected, he reached out and came and toured our recovery community center in Salt Lake. Nate Bluen.
Senator Blauen also reached out to us, and we met him at the First Step House and looked at some stuff, so thank you. It's not as common as it should be for people to ask about that stuff, so that was awesome. Okay, our next speaker. So for those of you who, you know, experience mental health conditions, they're very often lifelong, and we have a wonderful NAMI volunteer that we want to give a few minutes to, Angelique Mickey Brevis.
Thank you. I turned to substance abuse when I was young. I had experienced trauma growing up, and then my mother ran away from home. And I used drugs to try to numb the pain and to show I don't care. Some years after that, I moved into an apartment in San Francisco and began a wild, druggy lifestyle. A little bit later, a few years later, my mother came back into my life with her boyfriend, and she wanted to force me to get help. So one morning, they drove me to the San Francisco jail and pulled me inside where my mother had prearranged to have me arrested on drug charges, put in jail, and then transferred to the state mental hospital. In the mental hospital, they wanted me to take medication, but I declined. But before I knew what was happening, two male staff came up from behind, threw me to the ground, pulled down my pants in front of everyone, and injected my buttocks with medication. After that, I didn't trust my mother, and I didn't trust the mental health system. But the drugs and the trauma had changed my brain. I would experience periods of psychosis with delusions and hallucinations. Many years later, I was being detained in Salt Lake Metro Jail. I remember one night when I lost touch with reality. It felt like I was just floating in deep, dark outer space. And I remember thinking, I don't know if I can find my way back. It was nearly a year later when the charges were dismissed and I was released to the streets homeless. By then I was in my 60s and I knew I needed help. But even then when I wanted help, it was hard to find it. I had been kicked out of the road home, and someone suggested I go to the police station and ask them for help. I thought, okay, I'll try it. So I went into the counter and started explaining my problem to the woman. But two officers came out of a side door and said, "Get out." I said, "No, I need help." and I refused to leave. So they arrested me for disorderly conduct and took me to jail. A couple of days later, I was released back to the streets, homeless again. Then one night, I walked into a West Side neighborhood. It was late and I needed to sleep. And I didn't want to get arrested for trespassing, so I just lay down in the gutter. Pretty soon, 2 police officers came along. They said the neighbors were concerned about me, that they had called. They said, you have to be proactive about your homeless situation. And then they told me there was a trauma center up on the hill by the university, and they left. So I thought, okay, I'll follow their suggestion. And I walked the rest of the night, and by morning I had made it to the trauma center. When I went inside to the woman at the front desk and I said, I need to see a doctor. She looked up at me, took in my appearance and probably my smell too, and she said, no you don't. And she had me escorted out of that building so fast my head was spinning. After that, I was ready to give up. And I walked down to a very busy street in Salt Lake City and darted in front of the traffic. A woman slammed on her brakes right in front of me, jumped out of her car, walked me to the sidewalk, and it turned out she was a nurse. And she asked me some questions, and then she said, will you go to a hospital? All the past trauma of forced treatment in mental hospitals came rushing in my brain, and I hesitated. Then I turned to her, and I said, yes. She got out her cell phone and started making some calls, and my life began to change. I don't think you can force people to change. We have to be ready. But when we're ready, the doors have to open for us. It takes a lot of courage to face the pain, trauma, and confusion in one's life, and it takes support. We all need to reach out to others. We all need to shine a light of hope, and I just want to thank all of you who are shining that light of hope. Thank you very much.
Angelique, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your courage and the hope that you bring. And the other thing I want to say is that the journey you had to struggle with in order to get the health care, and I'm going to say health care, without having to be put to the ground, go to the police station, beg and try to convince somebody that you need care. We have to do it in the beginning. We have to do it in a medical office, in the healthcare entities, not through criminal justice anymore, not through our shelters. We will do it there. We will always do it there, because if we end up there, we're going to be there for each other. But what I want to say is we need to do it at the earliest intervention possible, because we can't afford to have people get so sick to the point that they're losing their homes and they're losing their health, and they're so sick that it takes months and years to recover and get out of poverty and get out of the ditch that they have fallen into. Not dug. We didn't dig these ditches. We fell into them because we had illness. We have to do it different. And so with your story, you give me more passion today to continue to fight the journey, advocate, talk to legislators about all the resources we have to continue to put in place in order for people to get a doctor to say, it looks like you're struggling a little bit more than just having a cold. It looks like you're struggling a little bit more than the broken arm that you have. It looks like you're struggling a little bit more than just trying to seek some medication so you don't go through withdrawal. We have to do it different. I'm not calling us addicts anymore. We're people who need help. We're people with an illness that need the right kind of care at the right time and the right dose. That's how we have to do it. I can tell you I'm a person who had insurance, and so from the very beginning I didn't have to suffer consequences. And that's how I got to 37 years. Everybody deserves that opportunity. So with that, let's keep talking to our legislators, let's keep talking to administrators, and let's keep talking to our healthcare providers so they know how to treat us. Thank you.
So I want to talk a little bit about what all y'all can do, what you can do next to help advance this recovery movement. So first off, make sure you're registered to vote in the state of Utah. Even if you've been convicted of a felony, you can vote in the state of Utah. So please vote. Second, talk to your elected officials. As Liz was mentioning, if you go to the legislature's website, you can look up who your state senator is and who your House of Representatives member is, and you can talk to them. They are people just like us, and so you need to engage with them around the issues that matter to all of us. And third, you can reach out to me. I'm always here to help bring people up here, to talk to their elected officials, to figure out how to engage in this process. Seriously, they cannot always be hearing from me and Mary Jo. They get sick of us. And so they need to be hearing from folks like you that have experienced substance use and mental health disorders and can talk about what it's like to live in recovery. I want to acknowledge a couple other folks that I see in the room. Back at the back, Adam Cohen. He's up here all the time working for treatment providers. I also see next to him Veronica Little. She does amazing work at the state to make sure that the state opioid response money is spent efficiently and wisely. It's amazing stuff. I also want to acknowledge Eric Tadahara, who is the Assistant Director under Substance Use at the State Office of Substance Use and Mental Health. An amazing man and truly an amazing advocate. So truly, we do have a lot of champions up here and across the state. Our elected officials really want to support people in recovery. Recovery is not a partisan issue. It's the same for Democrats and Republicans, and they all want to come up with solutions that work. Well, I can tell that the House of Representatives is still in the floor time. They're still having votes up there, so they're not going to be joining us today. But I do want to thank all y'all for coming out again. So big round of applause for yourselves for being here today. So that's going to wrap it up for us. Thank you for coming to the 15th Annual Rally for Recovery. And we'll see you throughout the year, but we'll also see you during Recovery Month in September.